Another thing that they can't handle, and that is I actually guided a nonprofit that delivers services to low-income families with disabled children with $1 million in the reserve, absorbed 2 other nonprofits throughout the 2008 to 2012 recession. In the meantime, the state budget was cut. That means low-income families were having trouble getting services, but yet the nonprofits step up. What does that mean? It is we don't need government to oversee our problems. The community comes together. And this is why the Democrats are afraid of me, because I know how to do it right. I've got it done. I have 30 years of track record as a child advocate. We've got 2 laws signed, 2 bills signed into law to protect children. So this is why they're afraid of me, because Republicans in the past never talked about social issues. And I am going up against them, carrying our conservative principles, showing how it works, because it is the only way it works. It's about the people coming together and less government, all of us taking responsibilities for our neighbors, because I'll tell you, a lot of us do care about those in need. We just don't want the government to do it. So I appreciate your support and your votes. Any questions? Come see me.
I want to start by saying that I fully endorse Peggy. She's amazing. And if you don't live in her district and you know people who do, please let them know how amazing she is. And congressional races are very expensive, so if you can afford a few dollars, then I should appreciate it. Anyway, I'm on the Orange County Board of Education, currently serving as the president of the Board of Education. Thank you, Linda. Unfortunately, we don't have much say, as Brenda knows, on the sex stuff. We just don't oversee that. What we mainly are is an appeals board, so we fight for school choice. We turn over issues of interdistrict transfers where the districts don't want to release the children because we know parents know what's best. We vote for charter schools. We turned the board conservative in 2018. We will try and keep it that way so we can make the choices that are best for the families of Orange County. We try and educate families about the sex ed, but unfortunately we do not do it. It's done at the district level, but anything I can do to help, I will. And I think my husband here, who sat on a local district board for a dozen years and knows a lot more about the sex than I do, will brief you. Thank you. And vote Peggy.
Good evening. Jeff Barkey served on a local school board, Los Alamitos, for 12 years, and so I was in the midst of the battle. Now my role really is to support you that are fighting. I'm a primary care physician, and I've worked with some of you on the battles with the sex ed curriculum from a medical accuracy standpoint. But I'll tell you, even if they create a medically accurate curriculum, it's still secular progressive indoctrination of our children. And your fight is righteous, and it's important to be patient and to be persistent. This isn't going to get fixed tomorrow, but with your support and your diligence, it will get fixed. Remember that our schools are funded by the dollars that go to the schools based on enrollment. So there are options out there. There are charter schools that have a lot more flexibility and are not unionized. There's homeschooling programs that, despite the fact it seems a bit overwhelming, I could never be my kid's teacher for years and years. There are charter school organizations that will provide you with homeschool curriculum and with networks so you can work with other people on homeschooling. If you have the ability, of course, there are private schools, and there are some schools that are better than others that you can choose from. So anyways, I'm a resource for you all. I support my wife's efforts, and Brenda has dragged me along in this battle as well, and I'm honored to serve. And so come up and talk to me if I can be of help to you in any way. Thank you.
It's great to be here and an honor. And I see you run for governor. We need you. They're wonderful. Basically, I'm a school board member for Orange Unified School District. I'm also a teacher in Santa Ana Unified School District.
My husband is a pastor in Orange County, and what I did over the summer is I created a YouTube channel with 5 4-minute videos so that people could easily get informed. They are all facts, it's very accurate, it's curriculum samples, it's about the framework, it's about ed codes for parent rights, so that when you do go and talk to in school boards or talk to principals or administrators, you have information and awareness. It's also a way to share this information easily in churches, in clubhouses, on social media. And what I'm asking actually personally is that you will take one of my videos, whichever one you prefer, and send it to a trustee, a school board member in your district. Send it and say, what do you think about this? Because we have a California School Board annual meeting in December in San Diego. And the California School Board Association has not been forthright to trustees in the state of California. Many of them have no idea what's really going on. And so I want to try to inform them so that when we go to San Diego, they'll recognize my face and we can bring together like-minded people and start a revolt, basically. So as easy as said than that. But there's a lot that goes into it, but Bob allowed me to say I could maybe show you one sample to just give you an idea of what this looks like. And this is going to give you a sample of some of the curriculum that is being used now in Orange County. Oh, it's not? Did you do educational laws? Okay. This one is not the curriculum video, it's the law video. It's okay.
One is 80 through 29, the California Healthy Act. And the basic difference is that in our new sex ed curriculum, gender identity and sexual orientation is now added. And with HIV prevention and sex education dealing with reproductive organs, that is an opt-out for parents. However, anything dealing with gender identity or sexual orientation is not an opt-out for parents. When it comes to sex ed, it is required in middle school once and also to be taught in high school once. It is not required for kindergarten through 6th grade. However, it is optional and many districts are deciding to teach those things. For gender identity, it doesn't have to be sex education though. It can just be under diversity education, anti-bullying, social studies, nonfiction reading circles, many various ways of bringing that in. The other law is Senate Bill 48, which is requiring our social study books to also include contributions from lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans. This is for all grade levels K through 12. These educational laws under 8329 for the California Healthy Act include both Code 5193-2B.
You know, I think we should just kind of stop it because I can say it probably better since I'm here. Because he chose a video that was a little bit more text versus pictures and curriculum. But I have cards here because all you have to do is go to YouTube, type in my name, and that way you'll have my name. It's kind of spelled weird, but that way you'll have access to all the curriculum, the books, the videos, the samples, and you can use that. Okay? And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Sorry that the video is not working like we hoped it was, but that's laid plans. Anyway, next moving on the discussion of sex education, we have 2 speakers that are going to address the issues head on. I'm glad to have them here tonight. One is Mark Schneider, who is with Church United. He's been very active in his role, and he's going to tell you what he's doing and what you can do to help him.
Thank you, Robert. So yes, my name is Mark Schneider. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder of an organization called Protect Our Kids, which is a project under Church United, which is a 501c3, which is an organization to unite non-churches across the state of California, regardless of what your denominational stripe is. Catholic, Calvary chapels, it doesn't matter. We want to organize churches for common cause. How many don't know what AB 329 is in this audience? Who has not heard of it? A number of hands went up. I should be surprised by now, but I am. For those of you that don't know, AB 329 was a law that was passed in 2015. It took effect in 2016. It's euphemistically called the California Healthy Youth Act. But it has nothing to do with health whatsoever. And right after the law was passed, the California Department of Education set about to put together what it called a framework, which is a 700-page document that gives guidance to how the school districts are supposed to roll out this law. So the framework includes curriculum examples, how they're supposed to teach, what they're supposed to teach, when they're supposed to teach it. 700 pages. But I'd like to remind us of another framework. Fortunately, this one is more shorter. It's a lot older. It goes back to 1776. And it goes something like this. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to preserve these rights, note that, to preserve these rights, governments are instituted among men. Here's the question you have to ask yourself tonight. Is parenting, is the right to imbue your children with the values that you hold dear an unalienable right in the state of California? Because if you're part of the legislature of the state of California, they would answer that question an affirmative no. You do not have the right to parent your children and imbue them with the values that you hold dear. So here we are having to contend with a law called AB 329, but it didn't come about in a vacuum and it did not come about overnight. This goes way back to the 1960s. In 1962, in Engel versus Vitale, school prayer was taken out of the public school. 1 year later, 1963, Appleton School District versus Shem, Bible reading was taken out of our public schools. That same decade, the 1960s, we know was the sexual revolution. It was the decade where they had the riots at the gay bar in San Francisco called the Stonewall Inn. And since then, it's a matter of record. In 1980, Alan Bloom, famous Chicago University professor who wrote The Closing of the American Mind, said, there is one thing a university professor can be absolutely certain of. Virtually every student says he believes or believes the truth is relative. Think about that. That was 39 years ago. And what's happened since then is a matter of public record. In 1983, a famous report came out called A Nation at Risk that called the decline of our nation's public education system a national emergency. The United States to this day spends more per student than virtually every industrialized country on earth. But for all the money that we keep pouring into education, our scores keep going down and down. The Pew Foundation, among other organizations, puts us in the middle to bottom rungs of educational performance against most countries which spend far little per student than we do. But the decline in parental rights is even much more ominous than the decline of educational performance. In 1944, the famous case, Pierce v. Massachusetts, was passed, where the Supreme Court said it's now the Supreme Court, the government, who decides what's in the best interest of children. Excuse my voice, I have a condition called dysphonia. It hits me every now and then. I'm not nervous, I promise you. In 2005, in the First Circuit, Hot, Safer, and Sexy case came out, which held that parents have virtually no constitutional right to keep their kids from the public school showing them any material, including sexually explicit material, that they want to. That was the First Circuit. The same year, in 2005, in Fields versus Palmdale, School District of Palmdale, almost a mirror image of that case came out. A case which the Ninth Circuit uses liberally to bludgeon school districts into submission. You will teach AB 329 or else, and they use Fields as the case to bludgeon them. But AB 329 still, there are court cases, but if you look at the California State Legislature, the pictures, it's the same sad picture. Going back to Gray Davis in 1994. I don't have time to go through the dozens of laws that have been passed in California, but I'll just go through a couple of them. In 2004, under Governor Schwarzenegger, a Republican governor, Title V of the Education Code was changed to read, gender is now redefined to include one's perceived sexual identity, whether or not it comports to one's actual sex at birth. It's an oxymoron in the statement itself. Senate Bill SB 48 in 2011, signed by Governor Brown, called the Fair Education Act, mandates that children from kindergarten through 12th grade are taught to admire the role and contributions of people based purely on their sexual proclivities, specifically their non-conventional sexual proclivities. 2 years later, in 2013, AB 1266 was passed, the famous bathroom bill, where we now opened up our children's most private enclaves of probity and innocence to members of the opposite sex. Bathrooms, locker rooms, showers. And yet parents stood silent. And now we have AB 329. It mandates that comprehensive sexuality education be taught in middle and high school, a minimum of 10 hours in middle school, another minimum of 10 hours in high school. It is strongly encouraged that preschoolers and K through 6th graders learn, if not the same material, very close to it. Robert has a book that he brought here tonight. I'd encourage you to look through it. That's a grade school book. This is not your grandfather's reproductive biology course. It's the most scurrilous content you can imagine, and even that you can imagine. We are embarrassed. We have held 6 conferences throughout the state of California so far. Fortunately, we're drawing big crowds. The average crowd size is about 600 people. We have to block out and blur what's in textbooks when we're showing parents. We have to give explicit warnings to warn parents, you are going to be offended by what we're showing you, but you need to bear in mind that if you're offended, your children are seeing this behind closed doors from authority figures who are telling them they have to learn this. Our children are being instructed to experiment with their gender identity, to experiment with their sexual orientation, to consider masturbation, oral and anal sex. They say that condoms should be your first choice for protection, but we all know, and the FDA admits, that condoms are not medically approved for such heinous practices. But this is what we are teaching our middle schoolers and high schoolers. And at an age when our children's natural innocence should be protected at all costs, we are indoctrinating them into a worldview that even adults should not be playing around with. But such is the law in the state of California today. Who's behind these laws? Very large organizations. If you look at the grants and the funding organizations and the companies behind those organizations, it's virtually every Fortune 500 company you can imagine. And they do it because of public pressure. Because they have to. If they don't, they're going to alienate the LGBT community. The front organizations are organizations like SECUS, which stands for Sexuality Education and Education Council for the United States. Do you know what their goal is? You can see it on their webpage. Do you think it's about communicating safe and effective means to be safe from HIV and STDs and to practice sex safely? No. You can go to their website. Sex ed is about social change, full stop. Right on their website. And what do they mean by social change? Gender equality, of course. Reproductive justice, which is a euphemism, of course, for abortion. Obviously enforced LGBT equality. And while we're at it, why don't we throw in dismantling white supremacy? This is SECUS. Planned Parenthood, similarly, is the other gorilla on the block. They promote sex ed as a means to transform gender roles, to change legislation, to support what it calls equitable social systems, which of course they will directly benefit from having clients for the rest of their lives. So Protect Our Kids and Church United, our goal is to get the word out. Like many of you, parents have not heard about AB 329. They don't know its implications. They don't know what their children are being taught. Our goal over the next 18 months is to build an army of angry parents that will say, no more. California has crossed the red line. We're going to take our state back. Thank you.